All right. Welcome back to the Rice Report, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you're enjoying these conversations as much as I am. It is great to take different opinions. If you've noticed one thing, I'm not an echo chamber. I'm trying to get people here with different opinions, journalists who are seeing different things. I don't choose sides. I have one idol, that's Jesus. I don't really care to embellish on anyone and hide the truth. Michael Yon, investigative reporter, former military in that capacity as well. He has been bringing some stuff to the light in the marketplace that, I wish you had a bigger forum. I mean, there's certainly people, because you're talking against people that they trust in. I wish you had a bigger forum. So we're going to kind of let this loose here for an hour. And we're going to start off with a topic that Michael pointed out 3.5, almost 4 years ago that no one was paying attention to, called screw worms, which most people don't even know what that is. So, Michael, welcome. Thank you. You're joining us from Japan. You're all over. This guy's all over. Last time I interviewed you, you were in the Panama Canal. Now you're in Japan. He literally goes to the places that he's reporting on. He's not just researching on the internet. But Michael, welcome, and give us an introduction of what's happened with the screw worm epidemic that we're seeing right now.
Thanks, Eric. I've been going to Panama quite a lot since Biden was installed. So I spent more than a year there since that time, and since his let's say installation into the White House. Immediately, I was with Masako Ganaha. We left from Washington D.C. at the inauguration, and we flew straight to El Paso to watch the floods of aliens just flood over the border. We were there within about 24 hours. Then we flew down to Colombia, to the Darien Gap side, the Colombian side of the Darien Gap, which was quite dangerous. And then we came over to the Panama side of the Darien Gap. And since that time, we've spent a lot of time there, and we'll fly around to other parts of the world where there's dramas on. I'm setting the table for the screwworms thing here. So we've been looking at the routes and resources and food supply, and weaponized migration and that sort of thing, invasions, actually. And so we're looking at the holistic picture of the global war that's unfolding, right? And by the way, it didn't just start. It's a war
No.
that's been unfolding like fruit blossoms every year, the new crop. And so this war has been going on since approximately as long as recorded history, right? It just changes and it morphs. But for instance, the routes and resources, Marco Polo was running around, through out to China and back. And he came, if you look at the map of Marco Polo's routes, it's like exactly what some of the stuff we're fighting about today.
That's
That's
true.
700 years ago. That's Marco Polo going through the Strait of Malacca, that sort of stuff. So, we're the same. We're the ancestors of the same bears that were fighting over the same caves and the same streams and the same fish, right? So this is a continuation of that. And so in order to understand what's likely to come next, there really is incredible value in studying history. So I've
Yes.
studied famine quite a lot, right? Read many books on it, looked at things and that sort of thing. And because when you're studying war, you must study famine and pandemic because they all go together. It's the triangle of death there, right?
Hmm.
Intoxicants, all these things are huge parts of war, right? And so screwworms. We were looking at ways that our enemies might diminish our food supplies. For instance, burning down chicken farms and H5N1 scare and all this stuff.
Which
Well,
all
we were
happened.
down in
Those are all real things.
Yep, yep. And so we were, years ago, I read a book on H5N1 about not years and years ago, but maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And for some reason, I was like, you know what, I need to study up on this stuff, and
Sure.
it was just a thing in the back of my mind. And so, but when it came to the screwworms, that was more 4 years ago. We were down in Panama watching the invasions really flow through the Darien Gap and also paying attention to the Panama Canal, which is, obviously, that important, right, to the United States. And that's one stop shopping. That's all
Yeah.
Panama, 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 right? And so the screwworms. Now, what are the screwworms? They're a flesh-eating larva from a fly, right? Now, they'll eat any flesh. They kill people, dogs, cats, cattle, sheep, doesn't matter. If it's made out of meat, they eat it, right? Or at least red meat. And so those things used to be prevalent in the United States, but about 50 years ago, there was a big fight in the United States to fight those things out, right? So we fought them out of Florida and Alabama and fought them down through Texas and irradiating the male flies by the billions. And because an entomologist, you always have to go to the entomologist, but an entomologist had studied the flies and realized that the females only mate once in their life, and if they don't procreate, then they don't well, if the male that they mate with is inert, they don't have offspring. So then the R naught of the the replication rate of the tribe of flies goes below one, and the population collapses, right?
Mhm.
And so basically they caused the populations to collapse. So we fought them down through Texas, down through Mexico, through Guatemala, Belize, all that, right? I just got a message last night. Belize has severe outbreaks now, right?
Yeah.
They fought them down all the way through, and the front line, the mud trenches of World War I of screw flies is the Darien Gap. That's why the Panamanians and the Colombians call it the tampon del Darien, the tampon of Darien, the plug of Darien, right? And so that is where we have a program down there to fight the flies. And so we irradiate flies in Panama and release them much as we did here. So Masako and I were talking with an intel guy down in Panama about 4 years ago, and he mentioned the screwworms and that sort of thing. And I said, screw that will make it back to the United States. So I immediately reached out to the U.S. government agency who's doing that, and I mean within like hours, and I asked for an interview, asked to come see them, and I repeated that ask, and by the tenor of their response, because I've dealt with governments around the world, especially ours, I know I know it's like when you open the fridge and something smells bad. It was that, and I'm just like, here we go. So I immediately did what I call a paradigm prediction. It's a prediction based on mainly the paradigm and a lot and only a little bit of information, right? And I'll say that right up front. I'm going out on a limb
Mhm.
to I'm testing the paradigm here, right? To see if it works. If the way that you're looking at the world or these situations is correct, and your information is 24 karat, then you should never be surprised. And your accuracy, your hit to miss should be quite high, right? It should
Mhm.
be higher than the experts because most of the experts are not experts, right? And so I went out on a limb and I published multiple times. I think we're going to have a screwworm outbreak in the United States. I don't know when, I don't know how
Yes, you
it's going to
did.
look, but I think it's coming. And I was saying that on major interviews, and I was doing that intentionally uh, to show that this paradigm is working, right? And that's the same paradigm that we predicted Nord Stream interruption well in advance, went to Germany several
Correct.
times in advance. Groningen went to Netherlands, predicted that. And so this is based on we have we think we have an accurate way of looking what our enemies are doing, and so now it's just a matter of putting in 24 karat information and getting rid of the mud so that we can make accurate predictions. So we predicted that the screwworms would come back, and now they have. And it was a long shot. It was like throwing a dart 4 years away and hitting right in the middle, right? So how do we keep doing this? I mean, and it's
Well, and
based on that
to
same.
verify your paradigm is the fact that this morning there was a release that we're now breeding the flies that consume the screw worms and releasing them in Mexico and Texas. So like it's not a theory anymore. The government issued that we are actually releasing these flies that'll eat the larva. So that's
Now
that's
if
that's coming to life.
if my paradigm is accurate, they're going to exacerbate the problem. If the one that the paradigm that Masako and I talk about every day, and by the way, if your paradigm is wrong, 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 you got to throw it out the window or keep molding it until it's right, until you're not surprised and it's highly predictive. If that paradigm continues to be correct or usable, let's say, whatever they're doing will probably exacerbate it because we can see that those entities doing this are trying to put us into famine. That's the paradigm that we're operating under, and it's highly predictive, right? And so, it, in that regard, if I were the enemy, I would close Nord Stream, I would close Groningen, I would close Strait of Hormuz and Suez Canal and Panama and Strait of Malacca, right? I would close all those, but I would try to make it look like somebody else did it, like Iran.
Sure.
That's if you wanted to actually create massive famines. If you close Strait of Hormuz, I'm in Japan. You would devastate this place. There's no
Yeah.
food security here. They get a lot of their energy from that comes through the Strait of Hormuz, and I've told people in this government, you need to get it from Russia. you know,
Yeah.
because if that thing gets cut off, this is your neck and Panama is ours, right? And we've got multiple. They've got here in Japan, and Japan is a major. It's our most important strategic partner. And I
Yep.
know everybody thinks it's Israel, which is complete nonsense. They're a
Yeah.
vampire, right? And the reason that Israel even exists is because British and U.S. intelligence have helped it exist, helped the Zionists to be there because of the Suez Canal routes
Right.
and resources. This is not about Jews versus Catholics versus Muslims and all that. This is about gas, oil, Suez Canal. This is about Strait of Malacca, Strait of Hormuz, Bab el Mandeb, Strait of Gibraltar. This is what this is all about. Danish Straits. It's all these railways, the railway that the Chinese just finished to Tehran and that sort of thing. uh, it's all about routes and resources, right? And for instance, you see the Israelis supplying weapons to Azeris up in Azerbaijan, and they're attacking the Christian Armenians, right?
Yep.
And that's Israelis supplying Shia Muslims with weapons to kill Christians. And who's guarding the Armenians? You know who's guarding the Armenians is the Iranians. So the Iranians are guarding the Christians from the Muslims, while the Jews, not the Jews, really, the Zionists are attacking the Christians. But it's not about religion, it's about the Caspian Sea. It's
The
about routes and
resources.
resources.
Right.
If you look at the old trade routes, Caspian Sea, right there, right? North, south, and east, west. Caspian Sea is a key, is vital terrain, right? And so just like Panama Canal is vital terrain. And so that's what it's about. It's about controlling, and the reason that Israel constantly wants to go to war with Iran. They're always like 15 minutes from a nuclear weapon for the last 40 years, right?
Yeah.
It's about routes and resources, right? I mean, and why would Iran want to close the Strait of Hormuz? They don't. That'd be
That would
like
be
cutting their neck.
that would be an act of war if the Iranians closed the Strait of Hormuz because
Oh,
it shuts down so many other nations. Like, I don't think people equate that. But you have a paradigm or a prediction that will happen coming up
I
sometime.
think that it will. Of course, I don't know that it will because we don't. Even though these predictions are serially accurate, way beyond over the horizon accurate, you still are always surprised when it actually happens. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're like,
Right.
it's like, okay, I think I'm gonna hit it in the bullseye from 4 miles away, and it did it. And
Yeah, I mean, I'll be
it's
completely frank. When I first talked to you, the first interview we did, you mentioned screw worms, and I was like, okay, like I listen to everything, and I think everyone should listen to everything. There are certain people that are just bad actors; you don't pay attention to them, but people who are intentionally trying to do things, because everyone will say, "Oh, this is a scare tactic, fear mongering." You've been right more than you've been wrong in the last 5 years that I've been following you for sure. But when you mentioned screw worms, I was like, that's interesting. And I kind of forgot about it. And then I think it was this morning or yesterday that press release came out about these
Mm.
flies being deployed in Texas and Mexico about screw worms. And I was like, we got to get Michael back on the show and talk about this because that was something you said that I'll be honest. I was like, Michael, that's out there, man. Like, I don't know if that could happen. And you were dead on with it. So like,
I
it
know
just,
it's way out
I got to tip
the
my cap when my cap should be
Overton
tipped.
window. So I mean, sometimes you're reticent to say something because I realize how far it is outside the Overton window, right? So
No, no, it's
when
fine. It's this show. It's
when you
fine.
say
Yeah.
something else, but I mean, for my own credibility, right? I mean, because credibility is absolutely vital in what we do, right?
Yeah.
And so when I go out and say something like this, I realize every time you do it, you're stepping on land that can blow your foot off, right? And
Yeah.
so to predict there's a high possibility of Hormuz being closed, and that it will be us who does it. Many people are still asking who blew up Nord Stream. And like I told you before, it was either the United States or space aliens. That was it.
Yeah. Well, in
I
the
mean, there's
UK
only two
collaborated.
suspects. It's
Yeah.
Martians or Americans, right? I mean, so it's like,
Yeah.
and so I mean, it was clearly the United States. We may have used somebody else to do it, but through proxy, but that's just hired guns. But at the end of the day, because it's about routes and resources, we're trying to do multiple things with splitting Nord Stream. We're trying to cut off Russia from Germany, for instance,
Mhm.
which has, that's Mackinder stuff from the old days, right?
Billions in trade, billions.
Right. That's old stuff that Mackinder talked about. Halford Mackinder talked about that years and years ago. And then there's but that doesn't explain why Groningen gas field in Netherlands. Groningen it cannot be explained with we're splitting, Germany from Russia, because Groningen is in Netherlands, right?
Mhm.
So I went up to that gas field, and I was predicting way in advance. There was others that predicted that too. There was Ava Vlardingerbrook, for instance. We were together on Jordan
Yep,
Peterson's show, and I think Ava, she was pretty spot on. Ava,
yep.
they was nailing it. Like, she nailed a lot of things spot on, and so she's not just a pretty face;
She's very
she's
smart.
nailing it. She's
Yeah.
yeah, and so but the Groningen gas field, they did close it. Now, again, closing Groningen, the biggest gas field in Europe, that's in Europe, so that doesn't separate Europe from Russia, but it damages the food supply, right?
Right.
So so Nord Stream does multiple things at once. It increases fertilizer prices
Mhm.
because you need that, natural gas to make nitrogenous fertilizers, right? And likewise with Groningen does the same. And so, but at the end of the day, a lot of these predictions, you have to really understand the global picture of what our enemies are doing and the architecture of the global trade and that sort of thing, which is an ongoing study. It's not something you're born knowing, and it's not something you're going to learn in 6 months.
Right.
It's something that takes years of study, actually. So I mean, it's not like you're going to suddenly read the Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times and all that, and you're going to know what's going on. You are not. You're not even. It'd be like reading a few articles in medicine, and now you think you know how the human body works. And actually, I think nobody quite knows how all this works. When I was with Brett Weinstein, who just messaged like 5 minutes before we came on, when I was with Brett Weinstein down in the Darien Gap in the jungle, he got his PhD work down there, and he's a Zionist, by the way, but
Yes.
he's very but I think he's quite pro-American. But at the end of the day, at one point, Brett asked me when we were in the jungle. He said, you keep talking about they. Of course, he's a scientist, so he's always going to look for first principles. Like, specifically, what are
Who
you
is
talking
they?
about?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? And I'm like, well, I mean, I know you're a scientist, and and I think in the same ways, actually. I'm not a scientist, but I think in that same way of first principles. Who is they, and what are they doing, and why are they doing it, and
Mhm.
how are they doing it? Right? The 5 W's, that sort of thing. I said, actually, I don't know who they is. I mean, I don't know who runs this jungle either. I mean, I
Right.
know the jungle who runs this jungle we're in, and but I know some of the players. I know the jaguar, I know the crocodile and the mosquito, I know the Chinese Communist Party. I know the Zionists. Well, I don't know all that they're doing because their oligarchical systems are complex in and of themselves, right?
And
It's not
hidden.
like the
Yeah.
Zionists are monolithic, or what are the Republicans? What are the Democrats? They're just amorphous blobs at some point.
Mhm.
And then there's the corporations, of course. There's family oligarchical systems, and they all are entwined, right? Like, if you deal with U.S. government much, like, you'll see that I know a huge amount of intel people, right? And they'll be married with top officers in the army or navy or whatever. Their brother's a top guy at FBI or something. They're all entwined. It's not like, or they work at some huge company, BlackRock or something. So I
Of
mean,
course, it's BlackRock.
it's not like they're all separate, right? So I mean, it's so the idea that, I mean, we already are actually fascist, and I say that in
Yeah.
a scientific way. Like, fascicle, the word fascicle comes from like a binding, like you make a broom, like you tie the
Mhm.
broom and you have the sticks, and it's a fascicle. Like the old books that have the fascicles
The
of the
binders.
little yeah, you'll have, like, say, 16 fascicles for one book or something, right? So those and so that's what a fascicle is. It's a binding, like the fascia on our muscles, right? And so a fascism is when industry and government are entwined.
Mhm.
They're one. They're inseparable. They're salt water, right? I mean, they are the salt and the water. I mean, they theoretically they could be untwined, but it wouldn't be salt water anymore.
Right. Well, it's hard
Or
to
what would you
argue
call
that
that?
point.
Disentwined.
It's hard to argue your point with that because we are an oligarchical system, and that's obvious by the fact that we have, Monsanto running the FDA. We have all these Google executives running everything. It's just people are kind of going from large monopolistic corporations into government official positions. So, like, I don't even think that's an argument. I mean, people will argue this online all day, but you won't find an argument from me on that we are already in that
Yeah.
system.
It's objectively fascist at this point. I mean,
Yes.
just sheer objectivity. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
And we have to be very, you know, we can't blink when we see things, right? We have to, like the BBB bill that people are all excited about. And I was getting some heat from it yesterday in a private group, you know, saying you're crazy, that sort of stuff. Because the BBB. Let's go back to Netherlands. Ava
Yeah.
Vlardingerbroek and I, we were on Jordan Peterson, and I think we talked about BBB. I'm not sure, but I think we did. And the BBB in Netherlands, if I say my Dutch correctly, I speak German but not Dutch, so let's see if I can get it right. But it was the Bordenburger Beweging, right? Which is so all the Dutch people, you can tell me if I got it right or wrong. Bordenburger, it means farmers people's movement, right?
Mhm.
Bordenburger Beweging, right? And so BBB. So I'm driving around with a politician, and we were going all over Netherlands, actually going to farms and all this stuff. And I mean, in that little country, we drove hundreds of miles, bouncing off the borders,
Mhm.
and talking with farm. And there were all these BBB signs everywhere, and they were BB better,
Hmm.
build back better, right? BBB is WEF. That's World Economic Forum, full stop, right? And the first sign I saw, and I'm like, whoa, BBB, this allegedly highly conservative new party that's going to represent the farmers, and all these farmers, they had the BBB signs in their farmyards by the highways and stuff. They were all excited, like finally we're getting representation. I'm like, listen, I only needed like 2.8 seconds to know that that's your enemy. That's it. That's a Trojan horse, right?
Hmm.
I only needed to see it's in green writing, which in Europe means red, green
Mhm.
party. So it's green, which and it's BB better. I mean, what more do you need to see other than a swastika on somebody's forehead that they're a Nazi, right? You know what I mean? I mean, seriously. And so I was there for the elections. I was with the FVD party, and we're watching all the votes come in and all this. And the BBB took a huge amount. They took a lot of seats, and it was almost immediate that they started doing exactly what Ava Vlardingerbroek and I warned about. That and also Terry Baudet was warning about it. He was a member of parliament, and he just messaged a few days ago as well about related stuff. I mean, these kinds of things are obvious; they're on their face. So the BBB
Yeah,
bill
what
here
did
in
they
the
start
United
doing? Yeah. I'm gonna keep you on track, Michael, because you can go, so much stuff. I'm gonna keep you on track. So you're in the Netherlands, the BBB is passed, and what started happening next?
Oh, they started just going along with the sort of programs that are taking farms away. Basically, the farms are going to be they're going to be lost, right? And so Netherlands is being destroyed.
Yeah, it
Netherlands
is.
is also vital trade. It's got Rotterdam Harbor right there,
Yep.
right? It's the biggest harbor in Europe, and it's at the mouth of the Rhine River, which is like the European Mississippi, right?
Yep.
And I mean that's pretty significant. And just south of that is Antwerp, which is the second biggest harbor in all of Europe. Those two harbors are in close proximity. So they're building in this smart city called Tri-State City, which
Hmm.
is for 30 million people. And every time I used to talk about this, 4 years ago, you'd get the WEF crowd coming out saying that's conspiracy theory. And I'm like, well, I got
Right.
it from your website.
Yep.
Here's your website.
That's right on there.
So, I mean, it was
It's your
kind of
plan. I'm
guessing.
regurgitating your plan that you've
I'm
disclosed to the
guessing that you're
public.
not lying on your own website. Maybe you are. Your World Economic Forum. So I mean, the BBB party got swept in, and they immediately started or continued and accelerated the things that were already happening. Now you see the big beautiful bill. I mean, the only thing somebody like me needs to see is BBB. I mean,
Yeah,
you're
I mean
because they love to tell you what they're doing. They love to tell you what they're doing.
they do. Yeah, and it's a 3.3 trillion dollars, right? There's another 33 in there for the symbolism. But the bill itself has good stuff in America. So like I look at
Of
the
course it
big
will.
of course. Yeah, I mean it has to, right? Otherwise it wouldn't have support. But I mean, it is a massive spending bill. There are cuts that are involved in there, so there are wins that'll be given to political pundits to promote all day long. But at the same time, 100% bonus depreciation is back in real estate. That will help grow the real estate market. We'll have no USAID, but all that means is it'll be called something else. A whole new organization will be started. This very, very systematic, normal, everyday Washington D.C. business as usual. That bill has nothing special in it. So
Right.
what should, and now there are no tax on tips up to like 25,000, no tax on overtime to
Yeah.
25,000. There's
Okay.
restrictions
Big
on it.
deal. Big
Yeah,
deal. You know what I mean? Big deal.
yeah, no,
That's like such a
I'm a forum.
non-starter for me.
I'm an independent, so like I don't have any. I love Trump. I think the story of Trump is great. The time will tell what he does. Like I'm more interested in actions than words at this point in
Yeah.
time. Excuse me. And we should all be more interested in actions than words.
Right.
But what's your view? Because I want to give you your view. I mean, other people won't do that. They'll say you have to talk about this, and here's the
Yeah.
beautiful stuff. But where are the loopholes? Besides, I think they removed the AI moratorium, restricting state. I think that was removed. I don't know yet. The day we're filming, this will come out a little bit later. The day we're filming, it just passed like 3 hours ago, so I haven't read the final bill.
Mm. I keep going back to the paradigm. Like, I used to hunt alligators when I was a kid and rabbits and dove and we would eat them, right? So if I messed up hunting the alligator, it actually could eat me. Like the biggest one
Yeah,
I ever shot was when I was 14 years old and it was 12 feet 3 inches, which is like a lot bigger than I was then or now, right?
yeah,
And
it's huge.
I did it from just feet away, right? And so what I'm getting to is I need to understand its behavior because it will get me and they are
Sure.
super fast, right? So I'm predicting about them, right? And in war, you need to be you don't have time for deduction all the time, right?
Right.
That's when you have time to do peer review and all this stuff, that's great. And that's what needs to be done. But in war, you got to make intuitive decisions and they need to be accurate, right?
Mhm.
Or it's over, right?
Know thy
And
enemy.
so that's why you need a paradigm that's accurate, right? You need to hone your prejudice, right? So that your prejudice is is like a Japanese knife, right? And so it's just precise and sharp. And in my paradigm, what's happening with the BB? First of all, they announced it's the BBB bill. I mean,
Right.
seriously, just put a swastika on it. Okay, we get it, right? For some people won't be tracking on that, but those who are get what I'm saying. If you're going to poison somebody, you'll have a beautiful big buffet, and because you got to have some way to get them to the buffet, and only one little drop will be on the one little thing or one little drink that they do. It'll be one little drop of poison, right? It's not like the whole thing is poison and you walk in and the whole room smells like gasoline, right?
Well, of course,
I
they
mean,
smell like roses, good food, come on. But what's the poison? What's the poison in the bill? And
I don't know, but it will be there, like the screw worms, like Nord Stream. Like, how are they going to destroy Nord Stream? I don't know. People kept asking me. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe a software attack. I'm guessing that'll be easy. And then they blew it up, right? So,
yeah,
I mean, I don't know, but I was guessing we went to BASF twice, which is the huge plant that would be
yeah,
affected by it, massive plant. And why did we go to BASF? Because it was, if I were going to deindustrialize Europe, I would attack Germany. And if I were going to attack Germany, I would attack Nord Stream and BASF. So we went to BASF. We went there twice. And the second time was 14 days before the Nord Stream got blown up. Now, I didn't know they were going to blow it up. I thought they might do a Stuxnet on it or something. I didn't
yeah.
know. But anyway, they
Cyber
did it,
attack,
right?
shut it down. Yeah,
Yeah. So the details are actually irrelevant. And how did they shut down Groningen? I don't know. I know they filled it with some concrete and that sort of thing. They really destroyed it, right? But the details of that are not relevant. What's relevant is the flow stopped, right?
right.
And so that's what was relevant. Now, what's in that bill that's going to be poison? I don't know what kind of poison they're going to use, but I know how Trump rolls: safe and effective. Safe and effective. That's how Trump rolls. We still haven't taken out the United Nations as an example,
Yeah,
and not even close, right? I mean, and I've been saying that since before. I've been saying that for years. If we don't take out the United Nations, all else doesn't matter on the border,
yeah,
right? And this idea that everything is stopped at the border, first of all, that's nonsense. But secondly, huge amounts of visas are being handed out. I don't even know how many, but huge
yes,
amounts, right? And
millions.
so yeah, and so it's just smoke and mirrors. So what I'm saying is I look at Trump the way I look at alligators or rabbits or
Or
people that
Biden or Obama. You're objective. I mean,
I'm
that's the one
watching the
thing.
animal. I'm watching the animal's behavior. How does an elephant operate? How does Trump operate? He's not really a Zionist. He's a narcissist. And on top of that, if the Muslims were the most powerful in his sphere, he would be a Muslim. If the Catholics were the most powerful in his sphere, he would be a Catholic because at his skin level, he's a narcissist, right? And so he's going to do, but keep in mind, he is just a sub, he's just he's like Obama. He's not the big player. He's just a
Right.
fruit on the tree. And when that fruit falls off the tree, there'll be another one to replace him on that tree in that orchard, right? And so and he won't be there much longer, but at the end of the day, he's a salesman. His job is to get all these things through, to get the cattle through the chute so they can be sold for beef, right? And we're the cattle, right? And so I get all these people, like I was on this call with these very influential people a couple days ago, and being called crazy by one of them, actually, believe it or not, because
I believe it.
I was bringing up, that's what communists do, right? You crazy, that's, we're going to put you in a psycho pen, put a, straight jacket on you. You know what I mean? I mean, that's just like gaslighting 101. You don't even know. It doesn't seem to dawn on some people that I study and do information warfare, right?
Yeah.
Year after year, right? I've written 3 books on Chinese information warfare. Will you gaslight me and call me crazy? I think you're a moron. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like
I
the
think
like
you're
this is a
right.
great conversation because I don't agree with a lot of what you're saying. Like, I don't know Donald Trump, so I can't say he's a narcissist at all. Stuff I've seen,
He's clearly a narcissist.
Uh,
Yeah.
that's your opinion, and I can't disagree with that. But I mean, I can disagree with that, and I also don't have one. Like I follow Jesus. Like I don't really follow a president. I mean, we're here for a period of time, and we go into eternity. I mean, that's kind of what my stance is.
They
But I
hate
love the
people
fact,
like us because we answer to a higher authority, and they don't
yeah,
like that because they know that we're not going to take a knee to them, right?
yeah. I mean,
Uh,
and it's
yeah,
open for. We live in America, supposedly. Like we're supposed to have open forums. So I may not agree with what you're saying, but you have every right
yeah,
to say it. And I think that this
yeah.
is a discourse that needs to happen all throughout the country, but it doesn't. You have
Because you have
Charlie
core
Kirk's.
American values. You have
Yeah.
core American values, right?
Yeah, and everyone now has a
Yeah.
right or left. Like if you're in the Republican Democrat, field, you're lost. I mean, it's literally us versus them, and we don't know who they are. Like that's the reality. We don't know. We don't know if Trump's one of them. I don't think he is, but we'll find out.
That's why
He
they
very well
use
could be,
them.
but we'll find out. Yeah, of
He's a
course. I mean,
stalking horse because he's fungible, right? If it wasn't Trump, it would have been somebody else, right? Because this is a big movie set. Look at Bondi the
I
Beautiful
agree with
and
that.
Cash Patel the Indian, and it's a movie set to get everybody on board. We got to have somebody that looks like me and all these key positions. Not me, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's like Charlie's Angels. Oh, somebody likes blonde, somebody likes brunettes. Right? That's what all it is, right? And so that's a movie set. And a lot of this, like for instance, now with the information war against Iran, they're saying again that, and watch it. I bet you if we look online right now, there'll be some articles about how Iran was seen loading mines onto their Navy ships. And
Yep.
yet their Navy ships are sailing all over the place around the Strait of Hormuz. It's like we think they're going to bomb the Strait of Hormuz with mines. Shouldn't we be mitigating that? Because that has massive effects on the globe. But if we were to mine
And on
it, it would
Iran,
have.
like that literally is Iran committing suicide. Shutting down the Strait of Hormuz is literal
Yeah,
economic suicide for Iran. That
right,
would be the last possible stance anyone would take in warfare is to shut down your biggest cash cow. Everyone
right.
thinks it's oil, but you got to get the oil to the world, and they need the Strait of Hormuz.
They need it, and they need it, and they want it open. The neighbors obviously want it open. Saudi, Qatar,
Of course.
UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain. They need it open as well, right? Iraq, and so
If Iran shut that
it's
down,
not.
everyone would consider that an act of war, Michael. I don't know how you
It
wouldn't
would
if
be an
they.
act of war.
Of
It'd
course.
be an act of war. Everybody on the globe would be after them. So if the United States, let's say the Zionist forces is what I call them, the United. By the way, I know the guy running the CENTCOM, Eric Carilla. I mean, I spent 5 months in combat with him. The general in charge of CENTCOM. He got shot right in front of me. I'm going to put it on Substack later today. I was making photos of him when he got shot. Right, he was right in
Wow.
front of me. I was shooting him at 5 frames a second, and he gets hit 3 times. Right, he kept fighting on the ground, femur broken in half. He's a stud, but he now works basically for super smart too, unfortunately, because now he ended up being a jab pusher, and he now basically works for Israel, or let's say Zionist, because Israel also actually is also a puppet, believe it or not.
Of
I
course it
mean,
is.
like it's it's the Zionists are they're meta, right? They don't really have a country. They're I
The
mean
true
the
powers of this world have no borders. That's the
they
reality
don't.
is they have no borders. They have no alliance to a country. It's money, power, and control. I mean, that's if you want to find out who's
It
in
is.
control, see who you can't talk about. That's like fundamental theory, right? And it's you can't talk
Right.
anything about Zionists or you get kicked off. And I will want to
If you
remind people watching this is that Michael spends his life doing this. He was a war correspondent, so he's been in war, reporting on war. I see people, you put something out with factual data, should start a conversation, but what it does is it starts an attack against you. And you are one of the few people in this world who really does not care what people say online. So if
Yeah.
you're attacking him online, you're wasting your time. He's going to continue to share the information that he's got, and I think that's great. It's what journalism should be. Just because he has a different opinion than you do doesn't mean you shouldn't listen. I think it's just I'm going to repeat this over and over in this conversation. Listen to all sides. Stop picking a side without information, and don't pick a side. You're either fighting for master one or master two, but in the end, you're going to be a slave if you keep following either side. It's just fundamental logic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I did so many 1,000 years of combat, like real combat, not just war, but actual combat. Like CENTCOM commander got shot in front of me when he was battalion commander, right? I was photographing a bullet that hit right by me. I've got it in the photo. I'll publish it this morning on my Substack, right? You can see it on my Substack, Gates of Fire, right? And I published it back in 2005. But I did years of many firefights, a lot of people killed on our side and the other sides, and bullets going right by me, that sort of thing. So as you can imagine, I really don't care.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, sticks and stones. It's like whatever, man.
Well,
It's
it's
like
like we just
have a
spent
fun
four
time. It's like,
we just spent 4 years accusing the media and the independent media
yeah,
of covering up everything in defense of one person. You take a public office, you're opened up for criticism from journalism. That is how the American media is supposed to work. And in an
yeah,
environment of free speech, if there's like I get it too, because I'm not a fan of half of what's going on. The other half, I think there are great things happening in this country, contrary to many people's belief. But at the same time, I think that there are things that I question. I would love more information on. And if I ask questions, I get attacked like I turned on someone. I didn't turn on anyone. My alliance is to God. And after that, my family. And after that, this country. Not anyone running it, not any human being standing in a suit at a podium. I have no interest in that. And I love the fact that you're sharing information that other people don't like. That is literally what the media is supposed to do is continue to feed you information so that you can make an assessment on your life, to make decisions in your life to make your life better. Like that's just simply how it works. But let's stay on the Strait of Hormuz. So
mhm.
Hormuz. So you think the Strait of Hormuz eventually will be shut down? It'll be us behind it, and
I think so.
there'll be a proxy used in the middle or a patsy used in the middle, and no one's going to know what that is. No one's going to know who that is. But it will be blamed on Iran. Is that the general consensus?
I think it will. I would give it a greater than 50% chance of being closed. Of course, I just don't know.
Of
But I
course.
would I would say greater than 50%. Why? Because if I were trying to cause global famine and I didn't care about and trying to destroy a lot of countries, right? And just basically causing massive chaos and disruption that you can profit off of and damage China severely. And there's a lot of countries that want to damage Japan, actually. It's already
Sure.
badly damaged. I'd close Strait of Hormuz. In fact, I'd close Strait of Hormuz and I would close Suez, right? Which you can actually get the Houthis to do that by provoking them. The Houthis have already shut the Bab al Mandeb before,
Mhm.
which is de facto closing Suez, right? And so, I mean, and somehow close the Panama Canal without damaging it, too badly, so that it's closed for some period of time, so that you're and I would do Malacca as well, Strait of Malacca. If you're doing, I'm saying if I were the devil, like Paul Harvey, right? I love Paul
Mhm.
Harvey, man. On
I
that
do
I
too.
was the devil thing. I sometimes I'll just post that randomly. Like today, I
I
need
do
to
too.
post
I
Paul
post
Harvey.
it from time
You
to
know what I
time.
mean?
Just be like,
It's
well,
like
tell me where
just
this guy missed the ball because he didn't miss the ball at all in 1963. He
man.
called everything that he said would happen in there has happened.
Was it 63 or 65? Yeah.
63
Anyway, it
or
was back then.
63. Yeah. It
It
was
was it
early
was back
60s.
when even audio was black and white. And so, so that guy was so right, and so is G. Edward Griffin, man. Those
Oh my
guys were just
gosh.
nailing it like Babe Ruth, hitting it out of the park. My goal is to be as accurate as they were. If I can do that, I will have achieved greatness when it comes to prediction. Paul Harvey nailed it with "I Was a Devil" and so many other things, and
Yeah.
so did G. Edward Griffin. I'm going to be on with G. Edward Griffin in a couple of weeks, by the way.
Oh,
He
that'll be a
wrote
great show.
"Creature from Jekyll Island." I was on with
It's
him
right
last
behind me.
year. Oh man, I love that book. Everybody should read Creature from Jekyll Island. I mean,
Which
that's
is
just
like, if you want to say who they is, he pointed out who they is pretty well. The Federal Reserve and those who own the Federal Reserve are absolutely your enemies. Period.
yep.
Full
He
stop.
was crystal clear. He didn't mince words, and he talked about how the Panama Canal was actually taken, which was fascinating. And last time I talked with him on the phone, I asked him about. Anyway, not to go into that, but at the end of the day, G. Edward Griffin, Creature from Jekyll Island, got to read it. And
Must read.
that's a must read. Yeah, and that's like top
So
10
let's go
books
back to
right there.
shutting down all these canals. If you were the
Yeah,
devil and you wanted to conquer the world, you would create famine by, shutting down these canals. Would it be simultaneous or would it be one at a time? Like, how would you go about
simultaneous,
that? Simul-
simultaneous.
That's a
Yeah,
tremendous feat. That's a
it'd be
tremendous
easy.
feat.
It'd be simple. It'd be child's play to do it. The question is, can you do it with plausible deniability? Because if
That's what I'm
it's
saying.
yeah, no, because they would have to do it in a way that looks like Iran really did it, right?
Right.
And I think everybody in the Gulf, because the Saudis and the Kuwaitis and the Emirates people from Dubai and all the other Emirates, and these are smart dudes, right? A lot of people have this idea that Arabs aren't smart. I'm here to tell you, it's the
Oh, they're
opposite.
smart.
They got a lot of brilliant. There's a lot of brilliant Arabs, and they don't need the briefing. They know that Iran doesn't want to shut that Strait of Hormuz,
Mhm.
right? And of course, they don't want to shut. I mean, that would crush Saudi Arabia. That could overthrow the kingdom, right? And so this is a big deal. Why is the Iranian Navy still puttering around out there? If we really think they're going to do that,
Right.
now the thing is if you close the Strait of Hormuz, or you could get the Houthis to do the Bab el Mandeb, so they'll do that work for you, right? And that effectively closes Suez, right? And then if you somehow you got to close Strait of Malacca without making it look like an accident, right? Something or some actor, who knows. And so and Panama should be easy because there's ways to do things with you can have a ship run
Panama
into
would
something
probably
or
be the
whatever.
easiest. Yeah. Based on,
Panama would
yeah.
probably be the easiest. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, it'd probably be the easiest. But the thing is, the Strait of Malacca is also very tight, and you only need to sink one or two ships, right?
But what
And
would be the
and and
purpose, Michael? What's the
global famine and chaos. And yeah,
and the end
I'm not.
result would be what?
Oh, well, it would destroy a lot of countries. I mean, very few countries actually survive famine. The
These are the
governments
questions
rarely
that
survive intact.
listeners who haven't maybe read as much as you or I, especially you, are going to ask, like, why would the rulers of the world shut down countries? Why would they want famine in the countries that they control? Like, what would be the purpose?
Well, not all the rulers want this. Like if you look at the royal family in Thailand, they definitely would not want this, right? But look, Crown Princess, she died from, or effectively died
Yeah.
from the jabs, right? Now, if people took the jabs without being warned not to take them, like powerful people, like British royal family, if you're in the British royal family watching this, which is a possibility, Lady Camilla offered me a bottle of whiskey one time, but she never gave it to me. It's good. I don't drink whiskey anyway, but I don't drink. But I mean, but she still owes me a bottle of whiskey. But and because it was some stuff I did in Iraq. But what I'm getting to is that looks like there's people in the British royal family that also have become damaged by this possibly. And what I'm getting to is if you're some powerful person in the billionaire class or super leader class and you took the jab in the wild. In other words, it wasn't like, hey, take a picture with this water. You know what I mean? Uh,
Right.
you're not. There was no seat for you on the ark. I mean, they literally are taking you out because kings still kill kings. Old school. Nothing
Good
has
point.
changed on that front, right? And so, I mean, there are clearly people that want to take out, for instance, the Thai royal family, right? And and they'll, because Thailand is the hyphen in Indo-Pacific region. I mean, I'm telling you, I think Thailand is going to be ripped apart. I've spent a lot of time in I've been to all the provinces. If you web search my name in Thailand, you'll see me flying around with the prime minister in the jet. I mean, we're sitting right beside each other, and flying around talking. So I mean, I know Thailand. I was in two of the coups. I mean, really in the coups. I wasn't
Mm.
just in Thailand. I was like, there was 3,000 casualties, right? I mean, we're talking like no kidding, kinetic. And so I'm very familiar with Thailand. I'm very familiar with war. I'm very familiar with the many types of warfare, like anthropological warfare, drug warfare, of course, information warfare. I've written 3 books on that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're only in Japanese because I've been trying to wake up Japan here for years with some success, but not enough. I'm not happy with it. It's got to be done more, right? And that's why I'm here. And so, but at the end of the day, these various types of warfare, our enemies are quite sophisticated and they're using all of these. And by the way, the highest form of warfare you and I have talked about before is information war. And a
Absolutely.
subset of that is psychological operations. And psychological operations, the fuel of that, the rocket fuel of psychological operations is intoxicants, whether that be alcohol, drugs of any sort that are mood modifiers,
Absolutely.
those intoxicants. And just below
Caffeine.
it, yeah, and I like coffee, just don't drink too much of it. Yeah,
That's
but
right.
that's the only drug
Well,
I
it
do
is an
is I was drinking
intoxicant and
coffee.
it is used in mental manipulation. So absolutely caffeine is listed on that category at
Well,
the very bottom, but yes.
might be time for me to jump off of it, that's the only thing. I'll drink matcha tea and a little bit of coffee in the morning. But if you're drinking coffee all day long, I think anyway. But yeah, maybe I should cleanse. It's time to do another fast. I did a 40-day fast one time, and
Wow.
man, that was fantastic. That was last year, right? That was absolutely. I loved it.
What
Anyway,
was the
not
first
to go
thing
into
you ate
that.
when you were done?
It was some kind of soup. Well, I was
Yeah.
in Japan.
Good.
No,
Yeah. Better
no,
be a
I
soup.
started the fast here, and then I went, since my visa ran out, I had to leave at the end of the fast, and I flew to Thailand, and ended the fast there, actually. And
Wow.
so after 40 days and some change, but at the man, you feel so good when you're fasting. It's
Oh yeah.
unbelievable. And so it's like I don't know, you feel good after the fast too, like I still feel good. And so
Feel
but
strong, feel energetic. I fast all the time. I fast once a month for a few days. I've never done 40. That's insane. I've done 7, but 40 is insane.
yeah, if you can do like 4 days, then you can do 10, because
Oh yeah.
that first 3 or 4 days, you've done 7, so
Yeah.
you've done the hard part. The hard part's right where you're at. The hard part's 3 or 4 days, and then
I
after
also
you
have
get
a
over
wife
that
and
little
kids,
hump,
so I smell food all the time.
then you get to the point where you're like, you weak people must eat. Yeah.
Well,
I
let's
loved
let's
it.
take a let's take a look in
Fantastic.
the Michael Yon lens in the next, call it 6 months. What are we going to see geopolitically? Economically is pretty easy to see, barring any large scale warfare events. Geopolitical. What are we going to see geopolitically in the next 6 to 8 months, or even a year out? What do you see possibly? You're talking about the Strait of Hormuz, which would involve blaming it on Iran, causing another full conflict with Iran. I think it's important to note for the readers out there who think that the war has ended, there is a ceasefire. Israel has violated 1,000 ceasefires, over 1,000 ceasefires they've violated since their existence in 1948. I don't expect that to last. But what do you see coming forward? You have Iran, you have the Middle East. There's chaos in Bolivia right now. Their currency is hyperinflating currently, and you're looking at 25% increase in bread.
Mm.
There's so much stuff happening around the world. Not really much in America. America's pretty calm for the moment. But what are you seeing around the world? What are your predictions here the next like 6 to 12 months?
Well, I mean, the war is going to continue. That's much is clear. Because first
Yeah,
of all, it never ended again. This is a war
never
that's been
ended.
going on for centuries, right? So we're just seeing new blossoms of it and saying, "Oh, that's the new war," like the 12-day war. That was a small
It's a
battle in a much
conflict.
bigger
Yeah.
war, right? And so it's going to continue. And the question is how, because wars are like fires. Wars spread. And if you want to predict wars and be very accurate, just say, I think it's going to spread, and say, and it will spread unpredictably in ways because it's such a multivariable game. It's like solving a Rubik's cube within a Rubik's cube while you jump on a pogo stick. I mean, there's too many factors to effectively, predict exactly what's going to happen. Nobody knows. And so they'll spread unpredictably, and they
Mhm.
last longer than people expect. But
Yeah.
this war has been going for centuries, so this is clearly going to
It's
keep
going to
going.
continue. Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially now that we have Al Qaeda installed in Syria. Like that's one thing people aren't looking, the Abraham Accords and people coming together and this is just my opinion. I have no depth like you do on current affairs in the Middle East. But it looks to me like they're installing different kneelers, right? Those who will kneel down to the Zionist structure out there. And Iran's kind of the last one not bending a knee. Even in Syria, they removed Assad, who certainly wouldn't do it. He's now in Russia, and the installed leader there has literally been on our most wanted terrorist list for like 12 years. And we fully endorsed that takeover of the nation. So something is brewing out there. But I don't know what that is. That's why I'm asking you. I have no
yeah.
clue what to expect.
I will predict it will grow because that's cheating. It's because that's what they do. Yeah, and
Fair
but
enough.
when it comes to the Zionists, um, a lot of the people that kneel to them are out of complete coercion and they resent it.
Yeah.
So if at some point they feel that the Zionists are weak, it will be like piranhas on them. So I mean, right now, it
Hmm.
maybe they'll continue to keep their power for a long time, maybe not. But once people smell that blood in the water, people resent what that they've been coerced and they've been, for whatever reason they've been threatened and it's in the hearts of millions of people. They resent it,
Sure.
and that's like a volcano that's rumbling under the surface and ready to go at some point. For instance, if Israel is lost, which could happen,
Hmm.
if it does happen, that would be a clear sign of Zionist weakness, right? And you can see already with the Iran's successful missile attacks, like one shot, one kill on that power plant with that hypersonic missile and other hits that were quite effective, right? And of course, the everybody's going, well, they shot so many missiles in the Iron Dome,
Right.
stop this many. It's like it doesn't matter when you're punching in a boxing ring. A lot of them are going to miss, and a lot of them they're going to block or whatever. But
But
the
you're
ones
going
that
to
get
land
through,
one.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you end up getting these knockouts. So, I mean, they took out that power plant, and in Maersk, the Danish shipping company said they're not going to Haifa anymore. The Israeli economy is getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and they keep trying to prop it up with lies. Like, somebody sent me a graph of the Israeli economy is actually going up. It's like, oh yeah, sure, I
No.
believe it. So that's yeah. If you want to fool people, just throw a graph up, and that's like brainwashing 101. Hold up a graph, make a
Yeah,
statue.
and hold it over and over and over again so that everyone can see the statistical data that no one can verify. Yeah, it's
Exactly. Hold
old
up
as
a
trope.
graph, make a statue. But
Yeah.
when it comes to information war, one thing I want to mention that I didn't finish off is, there's the intoxicants, and then there's music, right?
Mhm.
Music is a key element in the information war, right? That's up there. That's just below intoxicants. It's intoxicants are definitely higher than music, but it's up there, right? And you see like KKR. I was over in the LAX airport last week coming to Japan, and there was Dave Petraeus, former CIA director. I know
Hmm.
Dave, right? I mean, I messaged with him and stuff, and I saw him. He's a hardcore globalist. I saw him. I was in the business class lounge of United, because I fly business class because
Mhm.
first class is a waste of money and economy class is a waste of time. And so, but I walk into business, I'm so in the lounge and I'm like, oh, there's Dave Petraeus. I walked up and I started talking with him, right? And he's like, our mutual friend Eric Carilla, who got shot in front of me that
Mhm.
I'm about to put on Substack. He's doing well over in the Middle East right now as CENTCOM commander, right? That was what he actually told me, right? I mean, these sorts of things. What I'm getting to is Dave Petraeus now works for KKR, Kohlberg, Kravis, and Roberts. When he resigned from CIA after that affair with Paula Broadwell, whom I
Mhm.
also know actually, and when he resigned, KKR snapped him up, right? KKR, Kohlberg, Kravis, and Roberts. I read their book like 30 years ago called Barbarians at the Gate, something like that, 25 years ago,
Yep.
maybe. I read that book. And so he works for them. He's worked for them ever since he resigned from CIA. Now, what's interesting is KKR recently bought up a bunch of the venues in Netherlands, like the music and art venues, right? So
Mm,
why are they doing that? They're doing that for obvious reasons because music is listen, there's drugs and then there's music. Music's a little bit lower, but it's up there. And if you want to control a people or influence, if you want to invest in prisons and invest in drugs, then you should invest in music because they all go together, right? Or you can do the opposite. You can use the music for positive means.
sure.
If you're not evil, then you'd use the same tools for something positive, right? And so, but they use it for evil, and they I went to bed last night and woke up this morning wondering are the causal factors in evil actually, because that's what we need to get to, because we need to know the atomic structure of evil so we can break it apart. You know what I mean? And we know what evil does. We can see it because it does it right in front of us. But what actually causes some people just to go straight up evil?
Right.
And seize the music festival so they can get rid of the musicians who they don't like, because a lot of the musicians and other artists in Netherlands immediately went on a strike, which KKR is going to be like,
Hmm.
okay, who cares? We're going to replace you anyway because we don't like you. So we're gonna put our own, and they'll just grow a new crop. They don't care if they lose money in a short term. They're also cutting you off. It's a way of cutting off your message, right? That, that's a
Interesting.
that's another that's another that's another pipeline. It's an information pipeline. It's like natural gas, but it's information and music and art. Listen, if you want to make a good cult, you got to control the artist, right? I'm telling you what, when it comes to cult formation on the high level, not some local cult with 20 people or something, or but if you're going to make a huge global cult, you got to have the art and you got to have the music, right? I've written about this for years, and that's clearly so. When I see this, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, that they're doing it, I'm like, of course they would. That's exactly, you're going to seize all the you want to seize the music industry again.
Well, so
Black
anyone
people,
watching this,
rappers.
yeah, I was just gonna go there. Yeah, and anyone saying that this sounds ridiculous and that Michael Yon is crazy, it is now evidential proof that the CIA created gangster rap to demoralize and degenerate generations to come.
Black
It
people tell you that all the time. They're
Yep,
attacking us with music. They're attacking our young people. And
yep,
at first you're like, oh, they're playing victim. Then you're like, no, no. You get older and you study these things, like, no, they're absolutely right.
sure.
100% right. So they make these prisons to warehouse the black people and others that commit crimes, but especially black people. And that's how these leftists, they've always wanted to reduce the population of black people. That's why they were putting these abortion clinics in black communities and that sort of thing. They're straight up genociding black people, straight up, right? And another way to do it is just the young males, put them in prison. Then you can make money off of them being in prison, and they're not out. They're not out. But also they attack the black families, right? You
Yeah.
you listen to Dr. Thomas Sowell. I've read quite a lot of his work, and I love to
One of
listen
my
to him.
favorite writers.
When that guy talks about stuff, because I travel the world quite a lot. When he talks about stuff, he's dead on.
Yeah.
I never go nonsense, nonsense. It's always like, man, he's nailing this stuff. So on the stuff that I know about, he's nailing, right? So that it builds confidence, because a lot of the stuff I don't know about, that's why I pay attention to him. If I knew it all, I wouldn't listen to him. But I read a lot of his stuff because the stuff he talks about, he's accurate, right?
Yes.
So, but he talked about this. He talks about this quite a lot. He's like, when I was growing up, things were getting better. It was getting better.
Yep.
Like, well, Brook, where did he grow up there in the New York area? It was Harlem, I think he
Harlem,
said.
yeah.
I
It's
think
Queens or
Harlem.
Harlem. I
And
think it's from Harlem.
yeah, I think it was Harlem. And I remember him talking about how it was like peaceful, and you could go like walk down the street. It was very nice. And then all these things came, the drugs, the music, and they were corrupting our families. And now, it's now the hero black guy is a gangster wearing gold, that's got gold teeth and chains and got a bunch of guns, and and just impregnating everything he can find and killing cops and stuff. But that is an attack on them. Black people are not
Yes.
organically like that. They were attacked, just like white people, just like the Irish and others are being attacked, right? So it's not about it. There are evil forces out there that need to be addressed, and I mean
I
really
agree.
strongly addressed, right? And we have to bind together and realize that the reason that some people are like this is because they were attacked to fight us, and then they'll be genocided too, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why our borders are wide open, right? And drugs are all over the place. And
Everywhere.
you get whenever I attack, the new cannabis licenses all over the place, people immediately like, oh, you're a boomer, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, see, that's a typical bong monkey response. They're like, get high for freedom, right? Now, see, that's a IQ that's so low and probably reduced by the drugs, right? And because they're like, I can get high because I'm free. Let me tell you what, your enemies, it's called the perfect evil. I
Yeah.
wrote some dispatches from Afghanistan called the perfect evil. And the perfect evil is selling drugs because that's the ultimate WMD. You can make a fortune off of it. It's deniable, and you destroy your enemy. You
Yeah.
literally empty your enemy's pockets while you implode their countries, right? That's why people like the Taliban said, no mas. We don't want any more of that opium stuff, right?
Yep.
They actually did, they did a lot of bad things. I spent 2 years in Afghanistan, but I can tell you one thing, they weren't putting up with the opium stuff. But I don't know what it is like now because they can make a lot of money off of it too, right? So I'm
Well,
not I'm not
there's
defending
evidence
the
of this stuff
Taliban,
everywhere.
obviously, but
It's
yeah,
everywhere, right? So you have
it
music,
is.
you have movies, entertainment as a form of programming I mean, if you've spent more than 10 minutes researching human psychology, you understand that that's a programming effort. And if you look at this, you have the Chinese sending fentanyl through the border, poisoning people, killing people.
Through
There's
this
drugs
town,
everywhere. Yeah.
through this
And
town I'm at now. In fact, we have somebody coming. I'm in Nagoya, which is where Vance said the fentanyl is going through here to the United States. That's why I'm here right now, right? We've got somebody coming in tomorrow to take us and show us some of the
well, then
stuff that's going on here.
look at the CCP financing films and artists everywhere. Everywhere. I mean, it's not hard to find this information. You can find out CCP capital is going into Hollywood movies, into mute record labels, financing specific artists that are really awful for your kids to listen to, by the way. But they're sponsoring the worst of the worst to degenerate the I ask this question all the time, Michael, and I get feedback from people that's great, and I get like beef from people that's just ignorant. What is the American culture? It's gone. We don't know what the American culture is anymore because it's been completely bred out or bled out of us through a series of fifth generation war psychological attacks on the American people who have no idea it's happening, no clue.
Yeah. I wrote about this maybe 10 years ago on the Chinese one in a dispatch called The Man in the High Castle, named after the man in the high castle, because it was related to that and how the Chinese were doing exactly what you said.
Mhm.
But the Nazis actually did that in the 30s.
Of
Like
course,
there was,
the
because
Romans did it.
remember,
This was done in Rome. This isn't new. This
oh
has been going
yeah.
on since the Rome. I mean, the Romans invented the meme. You know, people couldn't read, so they made memes. They made pictures that told stories. The Nazis did the same thing. The Bolsheviks did the same thing. It's all repeated.
Oh yeah. And back in the 30s, Germany was the second biggest movie market, right?
Yeah.
And now China is a huge movie market. So they got clout, right? So the Nazis had offices in New York and in Hollywood and in Washington. They had their own censors. And the saying was if it won't air in Berlin, it won't air here, right?
Right.
Charlie Chaplin stood up to them. That's why I love Charlie Chaplin because he was like the original blogger, man.
He
He was,
was.
there was no blogs, obviously there was no internet, but he was basically a blogger. He made his own films. He's like, well, I don't need you,
Well, in the time
and
you're talking about is Weimar. So during the Weimar, Berlin was the Hollywood of the world. So and Weimar was not run by the Nazis, by the way. So that period
no,
of
no, no,
time,
in the
yeah.
30s. I'm talking in the 30s. In the 30s, right?
Hmm.
The Weimar, 20s, right? So in the 30s, and they were a big market in the 20s as well. But of course,
Yeah.
in Weimar, they had hyperinflation and some low level famine and that sort of thing, and dramas with the French and everybody else, right?
The exact same
So,
thing
but,
that's happening in Bolivia right now.
right.
The end of Weimar is happening in Bolivia as we speak.
Yeah, but you look, they actually had offices in Hollywood in the 30s
Yeah.
and New York and Washington. And so they're censored. Now it's the Chinese doing it. Like the Chinese, when Bruce Willis wanted to do a movie about my life, actually. We never did it because I stayed in the wars, but he actually played in a movie in China that was very anti-Japanese. And I messaged to him. I'm like, you understand what's going on here, right? This is not that's part of their information war to eventually attack Japan, right? I've been all over China, by the way. I went to Nanjing, their giant museum in Shanghai. I've been China many times, right? And, whether it's Tibet or Hong Kong, Taiwan, which Taiwan is not China, by the way. And by the way, the number of days that
Not yet.
Taiwan was China remains at 0.
That's right.
Although all the experts, they all know that it used to be part of China, and they're all wrong. Every
Yeah.
time that I say that, like, find me the evidence. I know that you and all your professor friends, you got your PhDs and all this, but I'll just be waiting right here until you come
Yeah.
back with the evidence. And they never come back with it because they're all wrong. That's the power of information war, right?
That's true.
So, it is absolutely powerful. It's the highest form of warfare, right?
And
And
it's being
so,
conducted on us every day from the moment we were born. Every day.
yeah, and now you have China is really thick here in Japan. They are
Mhm.
really moving in hard, and they're moving in hard, like, physically in Panama and over in, so many countries, Armenia, so many places I see them, right? And of course, Taiwan and Philippines and everywhere you look, Canada. I mean, you go to Canada, man,
Yeah.
it's like big time.
It's hard to find a Canadian
It is.
in
You know,
Canada.
when I was in Luxembourg with Masako a few years ago. The first time I was in Luxembourg is a tiny country there that borders Netherlands and France. And
Mhm.
does it have a border with Germany? And anyway, it's
I
right
don't
there
think
in
it
that
borders
corner.
Germany, but it's right in the
It,
middle
it,
of that
it-
corridor. Yeah.
yeah, it's right there. Does it have a border with Germany? I don't remember. I think it does. Actually, anyway, it doesn't matter. But it's right there in the and so it's a tiny country. The first time I went there was when I was in the army, like when I was in special forces, and we parachuted in and did a training mission. And then we got to, look around Luxembourg because the Luxembourg army gave us a cool tour. And it was like, wow, you live in like Disney World. It's really nice here. You
It's
know what I mean?
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but now when we went back there about 3 years ago, it's about 50%, 50% aliens. Like, it's like Drugville downtown. And it for about the first 10 days, it took us, Masako and I, about 10 days to find one authentic Luxembourger in downtown Luxembourg City. Yep. The
That's
Third
cool.
Army's buried right outside Luxembourg City. Patton's
Mhm.
there. And one day they're going to tear down that cemetery. I'll guarantee you. Our national cemeteries eventually are going to come under attack. That's how this sort of information world works. Now, a lot of Americans will say, no, they won't. That's when I'll draw the line. It's like, you should have drawn the line 1,000 times, like at the border, as an example.
Yeah.
And if history is any example, it's like, if you don't stand up now, there ain't gonna be any standing up, right?
Yeah.
Because we're being scattered, right? We're being drugged up. We have people that will defend their bongs and they will defend their beers and all that stuff, but they will not defend the borders, right? I
Yeah.
mean, they'll
It's
go
true.
hog wild crazy on you if you say something bad about cannabis. They'll say, you don't know anything about medical this or whatever. I'm like, tell me one good thing that it does medically. Do you do it? I mean, I'm sure it solves 1,000
Sure.
problems. But what I'm saying is that's not what this is about. And you know it, right? This is
Yeah.
about you being high and laying down and being a worthless piece of
Yeah. I
blob,
was in
right?
the industry. Like, there's definitely good benefits to it, but that's 10% of the usage. 90% is just entertainment.
Yeah, 90% is like, let's go be bong monkeys, right? And
Right.
and and, and that sort of thing. And it's the same with all the you can make these claims about everything. Everything probably has some good and everything has, I
Sure.
don't know about fentanyl maybe, but
Pain relief in small dose.
and
Yeah.
yeah, for an actual drug. But here in Nagoya, actually, there's already zombies here. I'm in Japan. I'm in
In
Nagoya,
Japan.
Japan, right? There are actually a few zombies now. Yep, yep. In
Wow.
fact, there was some on the one zombie was went sort of viral last week on the internet. It was one of how they go, people go zombie like, and there was one doing the thing in the street, and yeah, and this is, again, I'm in Nagoya, where recently the U.S. government said a lot of the fentanyl that's going to the United States is traveling right through here, right?
Hmm.
And so
I can't wait to hear the scoop you get on that, because this stuff is happening everywhere. I mean, London is 50% foreign. Paris, obviously, you see any video coming from Paris, it doesn't look like Parisians anymore. I'm in Texas, right at our Costco. Across the street is a mosque with midday prayer. So you go to Costco and you're hearing Muslim prayer from a speaker in Texas. So, like,
I just flew out of Texas last week. I just took the Centurions in a helicopter over Colony Ridge, north of Houston. I just flew them over. I've taken congressmen, Colony Ridge, north of Houston.
yeah, yeah,
I just took some young men. They've got a podcast. You might want to talk with these guys. They're squared away. And I took them in a helicopter to show them they're called the centurions. Their ages are 16, 17, 19, and 20. It's time for us to spread what we know to them, right? Pass the
Absolutely.
baton, right? And so that's why, I met one of them in church there in Texas. Doc Chambers, my friend, is actually running for governor. So he was preaching one day, like, I don't know, a month and a half ago. And one of the young men there, I was talking with him in the parking lot, and I said, "How many of your friends are doing drugs or alcohol?" And he's like, "Most."
Yeah.
And so we talked for a few minutes. I said to Doc Chambers, you know, who just put in his hat for governor, actually, and I'm supporting him. And
I
Doc,
can't wait to meet him. Yeah. But I won't throw
yeah,
my support behind somebody I don't know, but I can't wait to meet him.
yeah. And
Got
so
to
I
get rid of
said to
Abbott.
Doc,
Abbott's worthless.
it's trash, man. He's
Yeah.
he's a, he's a global. He's a world
Yep.
economic forum. And so I said to Doc, I was like, we should help these young people do a podcast. And so they immediately made a studio, like, instantly. This is only in the last 6 weeks. They've already done their first few guests. I did 3 episodes with them. I
Wow.
took them up in a helicopter. I just was messaging to them this morning. We're going to get these boys up and they're not boys, they're men. They're 16, 17, 19, and 20, right?
I'd love to
When I
meet
say
him.
boys, I'll say boys about, an A team of Green Berets. You know what I'm saying? I'm not
Sure.
saying they're not boys, they're men.
We're old
I'll
now,
be a,
man. We get to call everybody a boy.
but you know what I'm saying.
They're young men. Yeah.
You'll be like,
Absolutely.
there's 100 Marines. Like, get those. Look at these boys. They're gonna get them. I
Right.
mean, they're
Right.
men. We're not saying that in the diminutive way at all. And they're more like a brotherly way, actually. And
Sure.
but the end of the day, these young men are very serious guys. They immediately made a studio.
Hmm.
They didn't. When I said I would help and Doc Chambers said he would help, boom, they bought all the microphones, the mixer, and cameras. And so I went into
Wow.
their studio, and yeah, and I just got them a really great guest that I'm not going to mention yet, but I said, listen, I will open my Rolodex to you, which is about as big as the eye in London.
Mm.
I know a lot of people. I'll get you a lot of quality guests, and you just have to do one thing in exchange: talk down about drugs and alcohol. Right? It's like,
Good.
and then once you're confident in what you're doing, spread the mustard seeds. Right. So right now they're reading the book called the Path Between the Seas, because before we take them to Panama, I'm getting them to study this book. They're deeply into the book, and we're doing these occasional readings where we go through it and do homework together online to make sure that they're. So when I take them to the Panama Canal and I take them to the Darien, I want them to have done their homework in advance, right? So
Absolutely.
I learn a lot by reading books and going places with the right people and doing things. You
Yeah.
have to do, you have to go, and you have to read, and then believe it or not, I know you know this, the best way to learn, weirdly, is to teach.
Yep.
And it's because once you start teaching, you find the holes in your knowledge, especially when people start asking you hard questions. You're like,
Yeah.
actually, I need to study up on that one.
Absolutely.
That was a
Yep.
blind side, they find the holes in your knowledge. And then over time, you fill those holes in and you become actually a worthwhile teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has been amazing. This has been amazing. Last few minutes here. So you're all over. You got Substack, you've got X. How can people get a hold of you out there, Michael? How can they follow your work? How can they complain at you online for expressing your opinion?
The best way to complain at me is Substack, and the reason why is because you can't complain unless you're a subscriber.
There you
But
go.
you can read it without being a subscriber.
That's
But
right.
you can
That's right.
complain on X, complain on X in the open.
Well, Michael Yon, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for doing your work, taking the slings and arrows out there. Your predictions have been incredible. I hope some of them are wrong. That's kind of the one thing people don't understand. We're called doomers now. The people who are preparing for threats, we're called doomers. That's the new word. Uh, you know, if it weren't for people like us, no one would be prepared for anything. Especially you. You're out in the forefront of that. So the
That
thing
means
is,
the entire Marine Corps is a doomer, right?
right?
And why do we have the Marines and the Navy? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Well, we want to be wrong. I want to be wrong. Like economically, I want to be wrong. Societally, I want to be wrong. I
Exactly.
want to see change. And that's like the greatest thing that I could ever see. The one thing I could say that would be the greatest thing to say is Michael Yon was wrong about everything that he said. That would be the best
Yeah.
thing, and you would love it too.
Yeah. If I'm wrong about Hormuz, of course, again, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I would just say I think it's greater than 50% chance that it'll be
It's a
closed and we'll
likelihood.
be the
Yeah.
ones who do it.
It's a
Yeah.
not. It's a not non-zero scenario. What is a
Yeah.
non-zero scenario?
Way above non-zero.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, thank you
Thanks,
so much
Eric.
for being here, brother. I appreciate it. God bless you. God bless this country. God
God
bless all
bless
of
you.
you guys. And we will see you on the next time on the Rice Report. Thank you so much, everyone.
Be not afraid.